Hello, this is our final video in our Getting to Know Your Desktop series, and we're going to be looking at Finder, which is the app for looking around your computer at different locations, being able to manage your documents and your files and move between these locations. So this is actually a really important video, and I suggest trying to go through this with me and pausing as we go along. So we're going to start off by talking about the 4Ds, the 4 areas where you're going to find stuff on your Mac. The first one is the desktop. And a desktop, just like your real desk, is where you've got things you're probably working on and you want to access really quickly. So this is my desktop here. I've got some files there in my background on top of my background picture, my wallpaper. So that's my desktop. Second place is your downloads. And your downloads is where you've just downloaded files from the internet or from email attachments. And these two locations are really temporary. Nothing really stays in the downloads or the desktop for long. It's there for convenience more than anything else, or until you decide what to do with it. The other areas are your documents. Your documents is like a filing cabinet. It's where you're keeping stuff on a long-term basis. And then you've also got your dustbin, which is just called the bin. It's not really a D, but it's the closest I could get. Now, going back to documents, I also mean by that any other sort of location within Finder, your app for finding things, where you're going to keep things for a while. So yes, documents is what we're used to, but you might also have files in other document libraries, such as Google Drive or OneDrive or Microsoft SharePoint or Dropbox. Also, that also began with a D. So there we go. They're going to have these different locations, and we need to be confident at being able to move things between these locations. That's quite important. What we're not covering here is when we save to these locations. We'll do that when we look at specific apps like Word. But let's just see how we can just move things and browse between these locations. So we're going to give a couple of worked examples. Okay, so first example, I might want to move something from my downloads to my documents. So I'm going to go down to my downloads at the bottom of the screen, and I might have a file I want to move to my documents. So I could just drag it to the desktop temporarily, then find the location I want to move it to in Finder. So if I open Finder and then click in my documents folder, I can then just drag it into my documents. That's one way of doing it. I could have also just dragged it directly from this stack down here into my documents. That also works. That's pretty much the main way. You just want to think about, I want to get where I'm moving it from and where I want to move it to on screen at the same time. Sometimes that is easier done with 2 separate Finder windows. So I could drag this Finder window to one side, and then I could click File, New Finder Window, and have that on the other side. And I can browse to 2 completely different areas of the computer. So I go into Documents in this 2025 folder. And again, I could move a file from there, so deep within a folder, from one folder to another, just by making sure I've got both locations open at once. So moving files, make sure you can see both locations on screen at once, drag one to the other. Now let's spend a bit more time on Finder and making this work a bit better for us. You can see already in this document window here that it's already getting a bit messy. So just like our desktop earlier, I'm going to click on View, and I'm going to go to Sort by Name. Just having stuff in alphabetical order for me is what works best. There's also different view options. I can't actually see all those view options while I'm in this small window size, so I'm going to close this one, because as I drag this out, I can now fit more icons up here on the toolbar. And if you don't like icons like this, you can have a list view, or you can have a breadcrumb trail, or you can have this ridiculous view here which was called cover flow. I don't know what it's called anymore, but no one uses it. Personally, I'm a big fan of a list view, and I like to go beyond a list view and have a large icon list view. And it's not because of my age, because I've always had a large icon list view, but we need to get some extra options for that. So I'm going to click on view, and then I'm going to click on view options. And I'm going to say always open on list view because it's my fave. And I'm going to go to this larger view. I like that. I'll tell you why I like this. It's because you can almost see a preview of the document before you open it. And I'm going to click use as defaults. So whenever I make new folders, it'll also use those options. Winning. Okay, that's nice. That's a nice view. We like that. So we've looked at dragging files across. We've looked at changing the views. A couple of top tips. Number one is if you open a file normally, you've got to open it. And then if it's not the right one, you've got to always close it at the corner. If you aren't sure about the file you're opening, or you just want to glance at it, there's a glance feature. Although they don't call it glance, they call it quick look. And for that, just highlight any file and press spacebar. And then spacebar again. And what this does is it allows you to just quickly toggle like view and hide. So you click, view, space to open, space to close. And it's really useful just for checking a file. It also works on these stacks as well. So earlier we were using these stacks for our downloads. Just hover over anything, press spacebar. You can have a quick look at it. It's pretty cool. So we've looked at view options, we looked at moving, we've looked at quick look. The next thing I just want to go through is some top tips on making folders. So let's say I've got all my files here and I'm going on a holiday and I want to collect together all my files for my holiday. This could be great for work as well if you've got like all the files for a customer or for a project you're working on. You can select multiple files and then put them into a folder. So I've got all these files here about New York. So I'm going to click on the first item and I'm going to hold Command on the keyboard. So Command is the one next to the spacebar. And when I hold Command, I can pick up multiple files. So I've picked up these three, let's say these 4 files there. So I picked up 4 files. Because I'm holding Command, it toggles and I can select as many items as I want. So I've got New York, Statue of Liberty, subway diagram. And then if I now right click on any of the ones that I've selected, I've got this option called New Folder with Selection. Now watch what happens when I click on that. Boom. What it's done is it's put those files into the folder, and I can give it a name, New York. And I didn't have to create the folder by itself and then drag things in one at a time. I was able to select the items and it put them in automatically. If I now open that folder, they're inside. And I can add more files to that by just dragging if I want to, just like before. That works, it's all good. But it's a really good feature just to be able to select the files and then right click, new folder from selection. So that can be very handy. I'm also going to show you a quick shortcut on renaming files as well. Apple have a bit of a different keyboard shortcut to Windows for naming files. If I want to rename a file, then you're going to need the keyboard, aren't you, to rename something. So you might as well use the keyboard to say you want to rename. So if you just select a file and then press enter on the keyboard, then you can type in a new name for that file. So just press enter when you want to rename something. Click, enter, rename, enter. Boom. And I press Command Z there to undo because I didn't actually want to do that. So that is renaming files. So I think that's really the main things I want to cover with just using Finder. I will just point out that on the left-hand side, you've got some shortcuts. So you've got some shortcuts for recent files that you've just been using, your applications folder, which shows you all your apps on your Mac. And if you don't want an app on your Mac, you can just highlight it and drag it to the bin in the corner. You can add favorite locations. So if I go back to my documents, so I want to have this New York folder at the side here, then I can just drag that into the favorites list and it adds it to the side. If you don't want it there anymore, you can just drag it away and it will just disappear, just like how we removed files from the dock earlier. And there's also tags that no one uses. And then you've got this file here that, folder, this location here that looks like a house. This is just to indicate that everything to do with your user is stored within that house. So the actual location for your desktop and your documents and your downloads, as well as a few other folders, are actually stored in that house. Whenever you click on documents here or downloads, it's really going to that house first and finding that folder within the home folder. Don't forget that whenever you're in any folder at all, if you want to know how you got there, you can just right click the folder name at the top and that will show the breadcrumb trail on how to get there. So Mac users demo, that's the house, documents New York. So that's quite useful to have a breadcrumb trail. If you're someone who really likes breadcrumb trails because you're always going quite deep into lots of folders, you can have that on screen all the time by going to View and then Path Bar. And that will show you at the bottom of the screen how the route to that folder. Then there's also AirDrop, which we'll cover in another video for sharing files from your mobile devices. The bin, of course, which is files you want to leave deleted. Just remember to empty your bin every now and again. Then there's tags, which no one uses and I'm not going to cover. Unless you want to. You can tell me if you want to know more about tags, but I've never come across anyone who's used them. So there we go. We love Finder. It's really, really good. And I hope you enjoy using it. I don't think I want to say any more about it. I have just remembered though, there is also a search in Finder. And you've got the search up here, right? You've got the spotlight search. If you're only searching for files, you could use Finder's built-in search because it will only search for files. It won't search anywhere else. But I think more often than not, though, I'd still use Finder, the spotlight search. But yeah, it's got its own search feature if you want to use it. Enjoy Finder. It's a very powerful, useful app. And don't forget the shortcuts. Spacebar for quick look. That's the main one.